Hi guys, how you doing? Okay, so we are in Milestone 3. Welcome to Milestone 3. So I'm going to do a real quick review of Milestone 2. So we had in Milestone 2 Task 1, we had our word list. In our word list, we had 20 words. Those 20 words consist of 10 abstract subjective traits for your client and 10 objective qualities. Now, I used the Nike, remember I used the Nike example to illustrate the difference between objective and subjective and how we determine the difference between those two. Objective being based on fact, subjective being based on opinion. Okay, so we have our 20 words. Now, those 20 words, keep those 20 words because we're going to be using those again in Milestone 3. Okay, so let's jump over to Milestone 2, Task 2. What did we do there? We took our 20 words and we turned them into thumbnail sketches. We actually took our 20 words and we did a pictorial representation of each of the 20 words, and then we did an abstract representation of each of the 20 words. Very important to know, guys, there's no right or wrong answers here. All right, this is development. This class is a little bit different. This is symbolism. So this means this isn't what you're used to. It's not just, okay, here's your client, here's what they do, let's create a logo. This is more about the thought process behind the logo and how you arrive at the visual solutions for the final logo. So don't think about this as, okay, I have to create a final logo for my client. That's not what this is. The thought process. I need to see your thought process. I need to see your sketches. I need to see how you're thinking about this in order to come to a visual solution. So we're not going from problem to solution like we normally do in a lot of classes where, okay, here's your client, and create a logo. We're going problem, and then we're looking at a series of developments and considerations before the final solution. And those developments and considerations that lie in the middle of the problem and the solution, that's what we're interested in this class, okay? Really important distinction to make. Okay, so we had our 20 sketches, our pictorials, and our abstract representations. That's fantastic, right? Then we went over to Milestone 2, Task 3, and we took our best two, and we turned those sketches into Illustrator sketches, Illustrator renderings. All right, and then for the final submission, we kind of took all of my comments and all your peers' comments and said, okay, let's wrap this up and try to make it this. All right, so again, it's not a logo. It's just this would be a visual representation of the way you plan on showing your abstract and pictorial representations of your client. Okay, really, really important distinction to make. Okay, so let's jump over to Milestone 3. Okay, and I want you guys to see this is really, really a well-written paragraph, and I'm going to go through it real quick. So in a previous milestone, we examined subjective and objective factors that influence perceptions and interpretations of graphic symbols. Okay, we're going to move on this week. In this milestone, we're going to continue our analysis by demonstrating how graphic symbols serve as powerful catalysts and drive emotional responses in designated target markets. Okay, so we're moving forward. We're taking these ideas, these abstract and pictorial, these subjective and objective ideas that we have, and we're going to start seeing how we can develop these in order to create emotional responses, not just from anybody, but from the target market that we're trying to communicate with. That means basically the clients of our client, okay? Makes sense? Okay, so we'll continue Milestone by examining how powers of market research and data extraction lead to effective encoding of graphic symbols. Then we'll finish the Milestone by beginning an understanding of how the principles of visual hierarchy relate to the design of a graphic symbol. All right, so what are we doing? This is all about the learning activities. So the learning activities are very, very important. Let me jump over here to the learning activities. And this is what I was talking about in that paragraph. And that paragraph directly relates to these learning activities. For example, catalysts that drive emotional responses. So if we take a look at that, we can see this. Okay, so this image right here, this is going to give some these are catalysts that drive emotional responses, okay? You look at this image and you are going to respond emotionally to it. Inside your head, subconsciously and consciously, you're going to say, this is going to affect you in one way or another. So is this. So is this. So is this, okay? We're going to take that notion and we're going to kind of transpose it into our visual representations of our client by trying to encode certain things into into the visual identifier that will create responses from our target audience. Okay. So let me just keep on going here, and let's go to the whoops, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to go back to that, learning activities. Okay, and then we have market research and data extraction. Read that. It's very, very important of how we research the market and how we take that research and pull out the important parts we can use in developing symbols and a visual language for which we can use to represent our client. Okay, now we move on to encoding symbols for target markets. And again, very, very important presentation. And please be sure to read through this. Okay, it's not very long at all. And then the next learning activity is your video tutorials for Adobe Illustrator. Okay, so let's jump to our task overviews. Okay, thumbnail sketches, concept development, milestone 3, final submission. Same thing we went through last week. Let's take a look at specifics, shall we? Milestone 3, task 1, thumbnail sketches. Okay, this is a little different, guys. We're going to create a word mark this time. What's a word mark? A word mark is, let's jump over here. I'm going to open this. And a word mark is a word that identifies your client, okay? Taco Bell, right there. That's a word mark. That's a logo, okay? So let's look at some more. J&B, that's a word mark. Okay, so this is what we're doing. Nabisco, that's a word mark. So we're developing not a logo like we did last week, not a visual representation, but a word representation. Okay, let me jump. I'm gonna, hold on one second. I wanna show you guys something. Okay, so right down here in our thumbnail sketches, I always, in the task response, I always give the first response so that you guys just like little tidbits of information. And don't forget though, I had a conversation with Gary this morning, and Gary Luke, and we had a wonderful conversation regarding some of the ways that the class is set up. And we talked about this, this first response. And I want you guys, don't forget about the announcements, the course announcements. That's where these videos go. So that's the first place to look for your general overview of the milestones. And then we jump over here into the individual tasks. My first response, I always give some tips and tricks and some ideas for success. Okay, so this particular one, what is a word mark? Well, I describe exactly what a word mark is. Okay, and then I give you a bunch of examples of word marks. Okay, so notice these aren't logos. Well, they are logos. Technically, they are logos, but they're called word marks. Why? Because they contain a word. Sometimes it's the word of your client, and the word of your client would be designed in a way that encodes meaning to the client. Okay, so each one of these has a different kind of objective behind it in presenting these letters and these typefaces in a way that somewhat represents their client. Okay, I'll give you an example in a second, but that's what a word mark is, and that's what we're going to be sketching out here in Milestone 3, Task 1. So let's go back up here. A word mark is very important for a company's identity and branding. You will begin concept development and create thumbnail sketches that explore designing word mark for your client. Okay, you will refer to the word list complex. So you're going to take your word list from Milestone 2, Task 1, and you're going to take each one of those words and you're going to create a word mark for your client. Okay, so for example, and Gary, I'm going to use your word list since I just got off the phone with you and I still have your word list up. So please, hopefully it's okay. But and there's a couple of words here, and here's Gary's word list. So how would we do this? So his client is Guardian, right? The Guardian Security. Let me see, hang on one second. Oh yes, it's Guardian Network Security, and that's the company. Okay, so let's turn that aside for a second and let's go to the word list. And how will we create the word marks for your word list? Well, what you will do is you'll take each of your words in your word list, okay? And let's say, okay, so this word here, security, and let's use these two words, security and safety. Okay, so for Guardian Security, we're going to create a word mark that represents the word security. Okay, how do we do that? Well, there's a couple of different ways you can do it. You can represent security using a word mark for Guardian. Now you can either use just Guardian or you can use Guardian Network Security or any combination. So it's going to be Guardian Network Security or it could just be Guardian. Okay, so what you'll want to do is you'll want to take that word Guardian and you'll want to represent it using these attributes. So for example, security, I would take Guardian. How do I typographically and use a word to represent Guardian using the word security? Well, I would use a very bold typeface, nothing real frail, because a little skinny typeface or a scripted typeface that says Guardian, that doesn't, you want something that says security. This is secure. So I would use a bold, blocky typeface, maybe an Egyptian slab serif, or something really got a lot of meat to it. So something very bold saying Guardian, okay, or Guardian Network Security. Okay, so, and that's the idea behind it. So, safety, the word safety, how would you depict the word safety using typography? Well, you could do this. You could say, set the word Guardian in your chosen typeface, okay, and then put a circle around it. And that's showing that Guardian is secured within the circle. Okay, so I don't want to give too many more tips, but those are the two examples that I would use, and I think those are really good examples of how to go about this. So you're using typography to represent the word from your word list, and you're using that and setting that to the name of your client. Okay, hope that makes sense, guys. It's really, really important, and that's how we do things in the studio. Okay, that we don't just say, okay, let's create a logo. Here's our client. This is what they do. Let's create a logo. No, we spend days and days and sometimes weeks going through the word lists and the subjective and the objective traits and qualities and the abstract and pictorial representations. And it takes weeks. And then we go through our word lists and we say, how do we make a word mark that represents the words on our word list using our client's name? Okay, hope this makes sense. And a lot of times the answer lies in typography. All right, so think about what I've said. If it doesn't make sense the first time, play this video again, please. This is abstract thinking, guys. It's hard to wrap your head around this at first. But once you do, I promise you, it'll make you a better designer. I promise you, I'm telling you the truth. Okay, I know I'm over 10 minutes and I just, there's so much to cover. I just really want you guys to understand this. All right. So that's what we'll be doing for milestone 3, and that's task 1. And then that task 1 was your thumbnail sketches for one sketch for each word on your list. And then in task 2, you're just going to take, you're not doing 2 this time. We're not doing the abstract and pictorial. We're just doing 1 word mark for each word on the list. And then in this task, you're going to select a sketch to develop and create 1 computer-generated word mark using Adobe Illustrator, okay? And then those will be based on my comments on your sketches, and then we'll just, I shouldn't say my comments, on the class's comments and reactions to your sketches, and then we'll develop that further. All right, and then final submission, of course, is you developing your work into a presentation format, basically that takes into consideration the comments and critiques of myself and your classmates, okay? Okay, so one final thing. This is our book chapter for the book, and if you guys haven't been if you guys haven't been reading along with the book, I highly suggest it. It's a great book. I own it. I've had it for. I pick this book up and page through it all the time. It's a really well done book. Especially, this is 10 rules for a logo, and this is fantastic. So these are the rules right here, okay? And then each one of these rules is covered in depth in the writing, okay, with plenty of examples. So here's your word marks. Identify, don't explain. So this is explaining the way I just explained those 2 words, security for Guardian and safety. These are explaining each one of these and how these come into fruition based on the thoughts and the ideas behind the representation of a word mark for the client, okay? All right, guys, I didn't want to go this far, but I'm almost at 15 minutes, so I'm going to cut this short right now, and I want to leave you with this. If you have any questions whatsoever, please get with me, okay? Because everyone's doing fantastic, and I want to keep it that way. All right, guys, fantastic job. Great job on milestone 2. Welcome to Milestone 3. I'll see you guys in class. Thanks.